Absolutely nothing beats windshield time. Welcome back to Dan the Road Trip Guy, a podcast where we have candid conversations about life lessons learned on the road. I'm your host, Bimmer enthusiast and road trip extraordinaire, Dan Neal. And now, on to the show. So I have a special guest on my show today. It's a young lady I met back in March. She was connected with Lauren, our daughter, and her name's Joanna Schaus. Hopefully I pronounced that right. She'll tell you in a minute if I didn't. And so I was quite intrigued by Joanna when she showed up, and she is living in a Ford van, so doing that van life type thing. So welcome to the show, Joanna.
Thank you. Great to be here. And yes, you did pronounce that right.
Yeah, how about that? Wow. So I'm sitting in a parking lot in Cincinnati. Joanna will tell you where she's sitting. She's already told me. But Joanna, I like to invite my guests just to spend a couple minutes. And who is Joanna? Just so people will have a perspective when we get into our conversation about cars and road trips and van life and all that good stuff. So who's Joanna?
Yeah, well, I'm actually sitting in a parking lot in my van at a Planet Fitness in Asheville, North Carolina. But yeah, a little bit about me. So all my friends call me Jo, even though my full name is Joanna. And I am a photojournalist. Right now I'm doing a lot of freelance work. And in the future, I want to work in conflict zones and high-risk environments, specifically overseas. I'm also a third culture kid. And so I grew up in Afghanistan and Turkey for the first 15 years of my life. My parents did humanitarian aid work overseas. And then moved back to the States when I was 15 to a really small town in Minnesota. But yeah, I'm also a van lifer, nomad, and I've been doing the van life and living on the road for a little over a year now. So.
Wow. That is so cool. I don't know, probably a little envious of that life you got going on. So we're going to talk about cars and road trips and so forth today. So, well, you are young, so maybe the van's your first car. But what was your first car?
Oh yeah, my first car actually. It was a 2005 blue Toyota Corolla. I named it Indigo. And I had it for all of 3 months before I sold it and bought the van.
Wow.
So, really short-lived experience with Indigo.
Yeah. So you bought this van. So we'll go with the van's your first car. So tell us about this van and how it came to be and what it is. And I know it has a name also.
Yeah, my van's name is Shalom. It is your basic Ford Econoline standard electrical work van that you see pretty much in every state. The outside it looks super creepy and white, but the inside is super cute.
And I've seen the inside, so yeah, it is super nice.
It is a nice little space, but yeah, kind of crazy story how I got into van life, but I have wanted to do van life since I was 12 years old. When I was 12, I read a book about a girl who, after she graduated high school, she just got in her car and just started traveling the United States. And I was like, you know what? That's my future. That's what I want to do. And so ended up graduating high school and kind of just decided, okay, college is the next route for me because that's what everyone else is doing. So it must be working. Did that for a semester and found out it very much was not working. But this was also during COVID and I was doing online college and just really was not for me. And so bought my Toyota Corolla to move to Oregon. And I was going to transfer schools out there. And then I kind of just decided, you know what, none of this is for me, school, I don't want to pursue any of this right now. So I ended up dropping out of college and just quit my job. And I was like, all right, we're starting over from scratch. And I was also struggling a lot at this point, with depression and was just kind of really not doing well. And so ended up actually connecting with a humanitarian organization called Charity Water. Are you familiar with Charity Water, Dan?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love their work and I've just admired their work for so long. So I connected with their creative director and shortly after I dropped out of college, he and I found ourselves on a Google Meet call. And I was like asking him questions. And I was like, hey, like, do I need to go to college to do professional photography? Like, what is your take on this? Like, you're the creative director. And he said, Joanna, like, you really don't. Like, if you're good and you can do it, like, you don't need to go to school. And I was like, okay, cool. But then he asked me a question and he was like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, well, hey, I think I'm just going to buy a van so I can travel the United States, and just kind of figure out what's next for me. And so then after our call, he sent me an email and he was like, hey, he's like, this is so random, but we have a campaign coming up, this summer and we need to hire a photographer to travel around, to document little kids for us. So yeah, if you can find a van and convert it, like you can go travel this summer for us. And I was like, what? No way. I like walked into the kitchen where my parents were and I was like screaming and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So yeah, that's how I got into van life.
Well, that is cool. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's nothing better, I think, as a parent than when you see your child kind of living out their passion and what they want to do.
Yeah.
So I know that holds true for me. So
Mm,
that was last summer that you. When did you put this band together? And you built this band with your dad, right?
I did, yeah. So the campaign was last summer and I traveled for them on the road for 4 weeks. And I did build the van with my dad. He has a career background as an aviation mechanic. So my dad is super like handy with electrical work and woodworking, and he's very crafty and like vehicles and just all that stuff. He is so good at it. And so we actually built the van at the worst possible time to even like buy a van. And it was right, it was during COVID. And so the market and just everything was so much. And so wood was going up and used vehicles were going up. Um, Managed to find this one. And I remember walking into the dealership and the lady was like, I was signing I was signing a bunch of documents and she was like, so what are you like gonna use this van for? Because I don't think she'd ever seen like a 20-year-old girl buying a vehicle like this.
Yeah, buying the
Um,
electrical van.
yeah. She was like, what are you gonna use this car for? And I was like, I told her, I was like, I am going to like live in this van. And she gave me a look that's like a look that I've seen so many times, but it's the look of kind of like, are you serious? Like, what? um, but yeah, my dad and I converted the van in actually 2.5 months. So it was a really quick turnaround for us. So
Wow, that's
yeah.
so cool. Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
sure you get that look from a lot of people. I know when you came to Cincinnati, it was like, oh, I can't wait to see this van. This is so cool. So
I know. It was so great. It was so
I'm not
fun.
sure at 61 I could live in a van. Although I did watch that. What was that Netflix or Amazon show? What was that show? The
Ooh.
Nomad Land or
Oh,
something?
Nomadland,
Yeah,
the movie.
yeah.
Mm,
That was pretty cool. So
that's
yeah,
one of my favorite movies. I feel like I've cried to that movie like 5 times now.
yeah.
But yeah, really good movie, really sad movie, and eye-opening movie. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, so one of my questions I like to ask is, so you shared that you were in Afghanistan and Turkey
hmm
as a child, basically.
hmm
Did your family take road trips there, or what did you do?
um, so we did not really take many road trips. Well, I guess we took one that was rather memorable for me.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
share that. We want to know about
okay.
that.
Okay, well, it was in Turkey, and we decided to go on a little vacation to the coast. We went to Antalya, which, if you've ever been to Turkey, it's just the most beautiful country. Like the coast is beautiful, and the water is so blue. And so we, rented a little Airbnb there, and we're just hanging out for a week. And on our way back, we like woke up at 4 in the morning to head back. Um, So we're all like falling asleep. My two brothers and I are just kind of dozing off, in the back seat. Um, and then all of a sudden we got pulled over.
Oh no.
Yeah. And my parents, they weren't like fluent in Turkish, but they could like, converse and hold a conversation. And so in our, broken Turkish and a little bit of English from this officer, we figured out that like something was wrong with the insurance or something. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And so the police officer was like, okay, like follow me. And so we're
Right. Yeah,
following
you're
him.
going, sure.
We're like, okay, so we're following this police car through this like small Turkish village. I think it's like 7 a.m. by this point. So all of these, Turkish people are like staring at these foreigners, driving through this village, following this police officer. And they took us to an impound lot. Um, and they actually like impounded our vehicle for 12 hours and we had absolutely nowhere to go. So we just like stayed in the vehicle and we were in a van. So we just hung out in our van in this impound lot and watched like old movies. Um, and yeah, and then they let us go after 12 hours. So,
Wow.
and we made it home. But that was kind of a memorable road trip. But other than that, most of our road trips have happened in the States. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
maybe that's what got you down this van life, hanging out in a van for 12 hours. You're like, oh, well, I could do
Oh, I
this all
can
the
do this.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, that was probably it.
So any epic road trips in the States then that just one that just
Yes.
sticks out in your mind and you go, wow, if I could do that again, or I'll never forget that trip.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to do this road trip that I'm going to tell you about again, but it's very memorable in my life. It happened before van life, and so I was 17, and my good friend Kylie, she sent me a message and was like, "Hey, I am going to move to Colorado. Do you want to, take a road trip with me to Colorado and help me move out there?" And our friend Dylan also came just to accompany us, hang out. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's do it. And so we got in it was like it's her grandmother's car or something. It was a really old vehicle. I don't even remember what kind of vehicle it was, honestly.
Probably a
Um,
Buick, maybe a Buick.
Probably. I am terrible at like knowing cars and their
That's
names and
okay.
everything.
Yeah.
They're just all cars to me. Um, but um, we left Minnesota, headed to Colorado, and um, we were in Nebraska when this happened, and it was like 8 p.m. at night, and it was wintertime. So it was super cold out, and we just stopped for dinner and filled up on gas, and we were kind of going down this like narrow road. But it was like a fairly big road that trucks were on it and everything, but I
Sure.
remember it being pretty narrow. And there were snowbanks like all around us because it was Nebraska in the winter. And so we're driving and all of a sudden the semi truck is like coming at us. And he starts going further into our lane. So my friend Kylie's like pulling over into the shoulder.
Mm.
But she didn't have like enough space to pull over fully because of the snowbanks. And so all of a sudden we just like hit a snowbank and the car rolled twice.
Oh no.
Yeah. So like I found myself like hanging, the car is like upside down and you're hanging there and you're kind of like, how do I get out of this vehicle? Because everything familiar is now upside down. The semi truck, I don't think he even saw us. Like he did not stop.
Oh wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so we get out of the car and it's freezing and oh my gosh, it's so cold. But super great place that we ended up in because we ended up in this small town in Nebraska and like the town like came together to literally like help us. Like they put us in this little like guest house and one of the like town mechanic guys, he let us borrow his truck while we were like stranded in this town to get around. And then a lady that we met at the diner there, she actually drove my friend Kylie to pick up the rental car, which was like a 2-hour drive. Um,
Wow.
And then another lady in this town like bought us lunch. It was a super interesting experience in this like sweet small town of Nebraska. But we made it to Colorado safely and moved Kylie out there. But yeah, that's definitely a road trip that I will never forget.
Yeah, for sure. And when you encounter that, you just kind of forget about all this bad news we see in the news all the time, and
Hmm.
you run into this small town America where people still do take care of one another. And I grew up in a small town, so I know what
Yeah,
that's
no,
like.
it's beautiful. It's so cool. I mean, I've seen that. I mean, in all my travels across, specifically the Midwest, I feel like, but across, the Midwest and the East Coast, there's so many kind people wherever you go. I feel like my faith in humanity is a little bit restored
Yeah,
after doing van life.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
hmm
So as you do this van life, and so you've been at it now, what, over a year, right?
yeah.
Over a
hmm
year. So it's still good. It's still what you thought it would be.
Um, I don't think it's what I thought it would be.
Oh, okay.
But I
Tell us more then.
sure. I absolutely love it. I want to do it for as long as I possibly can. Um, but I think I went into it kind of thinking that it was going to be what you see on social media.
Not
Which
the
is
real
all,
world on
yeah.
social media, right?
Yeah, which is all like fabricated, but like on social media, you kind of see all these people waking up in these like beautiful places. And that does happen, like that has happened for me, but it's not, every day. Um, like most most days I'm waking up in, street parking lots or Walmart parking lots. And I mean, right now I'm talking to you from the Planet Fitness parking lot. It's a lot of parking lots. And there's also like a lot of anxiety that I face with like what happens if the van gets broken into or like what happens if it gets stolen, things like that. Where it's just like that anxiety of having, everything you own in a vehicle.
Sure.
Um, and I would say that, there's always something going wrong with van life. Um, like always something breaking. It's like rare that there's a week where I don't have something that's like everything is working in the van. Like there's always something not working. Like right now, my fridge is broken.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that's super unfortunate, but I think that van life is definitely not for someone who cannot handle things going wrong
Yeah. So
because it happens a lot.
yeah, probably at 61, I probably shouldn't do van life. Yeah. So you're in Planet Fitness parking lot. You should tell people why, and I know why you're at Planet Fitness, but just in case people are thinking you have this full-blown shower in that van,
Oh,
probably should tell them why you're at Planet Fitness.
I do not have a shower in my van. Yeah, so I am at Planet Fitness quite a bit because I love my showers, but I shower at Planet Fitness, which actually like majority of van lifers do. So if you go to a Planet Fitness to work out, like look around the parking lot and you might see a few van lifers
Yeah.
hanging out in their vehicles. Um, but yes, I just have the basic necessities in my vehicle, which is a bed and my little camp stove and my fridge that currently doesn't work and a sink.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah. So so what are you doing? So of course you're in the van, but you do freelance work. What's on your freelance schedule right now?
Yeah. Not a lot actually. I am preparing at the moment to move states. I'm actually headed towards Alabama next month, which is kind of unique for me. Um, but yeah, right now I have a few trips coming up.
Yeah.
I'm headed to Kansas City, Missouri, in October for it's like a stress inoculation training, which is super cool.
Okay.
And then I'm actually headed back to Minnesota to go on a camping trip with my parents. And that's happening this month as well. And so just kind of a lot of traveling right now. And some freelance projects are kind of in the works, but nothing's set in stone at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And are you a writer also? I wasn't for sure if you're a photographer or writer or.
I am both.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I do more photography than I do writing, but I love both those worlds equally.
That's good. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
good.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about road trips, of course. If you could take a road trip with anybody, um, be it somebody who's died or alive currently, and if you could take off today and just travel across the states, for example, who would you go with?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I don't know if this answer counts. You can tell me if it doesn't.
That's a road trip. We count everything. We're just chatting.
Okay, okay.
I'm pretending we're driving down the road and we're just chatting. Lauren, she's like, Dad, you got to edit these things. I'm like, no, I don't have that much time nor skills. So these are raw and unedited conversations because, as one of my guests said, you can't edit a road trip conversation. So anyway.
I love that. No, I agree with you. I love that so much.
So anyway,
Um,
back
back
to
to the
who would
question.
you go with?
Okay, so I would actually go with my younger self.
Mm,
Um,
wow. Okay.
so
I like that.
yeah, yeah. And I thought about this question. I was like, oh man. Um, but I think I would go with her because she didn't really, believe that she was capable of doing van life.
Mm,
Like I feel like there have been a lot of instances, even as an adult, where I'm like, am I cut out for this? Like the fridge broke this week and I was like sitting there, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to buy non-refrigerated coffee creamer.
yeah.
And I was like, am I am I meant to be doing this right now? Um, but I would go with my younger self because I think that I would love to, travel with her and just be like, hey, there are like cars driving by right now. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, that's good.
Um,
I was thinking I need to find some background noise when I am sitting in
Here it
parking
is.
lots so we can have some background road noise.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
some road noise for you, all these trucks
yeah.
driving by me.
Yeah.
Um,
We need somebody to blow, blow
yeah,
their horn. So
we need a
anyway,
horn here.
anyway,
Yeah.
back to your younger self. So what's this conversation with your younger self, if you can share
Yeah.
anything?
Well, I would just love to tell her like, hey, like you are like so capable of doing this and you are gonna do this. And I know that you have doubts that you're gonna do it. But like you are, because this was one of my younger self's, biggest dreams, was to live this kind of nomadic lifestyle and to be able to travel with her and kind of show her that, I did do that for her and um I would just love to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
great. That's great.
Hmm.
That's a first on this show. So somebody traveling with their younger self, I think that's
I
great.
know.
And I can agree with you on that. And there's times I'd like to go
Mm.
back and ride along with my younger self
Aw,
and tell him a
so
few
sweet.
things. So yeah.
That's so sweet. Hmm.
So obviously you've been a lot of places. I mean, to be
Hmm.
what are you 20, 21 now?
20.
20,
Yes, I am
20,
20.
and you've lived in Turkey and Afghanistan. I mean, who can say that? And you've experienced that, and you're experiencing the beautiful country of the U.S., which a lot of people overlook, I think, these days.
It's true.
Um,
Yeah.
but wow, I was going to ask you a question. I know what I was going to ask you. What's on your? I don't know if you have a bucket list. I don't think
Oh yeah.
at 20. I'm not sure I had a bucket list. But anyway, what's a big item on your bucket list? Something you just got to knock out before you're my age, before you're 61 for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because you're like, you're traveling around America, but I have literally been like nowhere West Coast. Which is just so funny to me because like all van lifers, I feel like first go to the West Coast. Um, but the furthest west that I've gone in my vehicle is Colorado. Um, but yeah, so one thing on my bucket list is I really want to go to. Have you seen the movie Into the Wild?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay,
I probably
well,
need to watch that, right?
Yes, you need to add that one to your list
Okay.
because it is about like the nomadic life. And I'm not going to tell you what it's about because I'm going to
Okay.
ruin it
All
for you.
right.
But in that movie, there's a scene where he goes to Salvation Mountain in California. And so that is like top of my bucket list. Like I would love to go to Salvation Mountain in California. I just think it's so cool. And I really want to see that before I'm your age.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, I'm sure you
Yeah,
will because you got plenty of time. Where is
it's
that?
true.
I don't know where that's at, so you're gonna have to tell me.
I don't know where in California
Hmm.
specifically.
Okay.
I just know it's in California, but it's
Well,
not very specific. But
so Linda and I took kind of an epic road trip in 2019. I think I probably
yeah,
shared this. I don't think I shared this on the show, but um, I mapped out. I'd never taken 2 weeks off in my life, so I took off two
really.
weeks of work. Yeah, yeah, real,
Wow.
really. um,
That's crazy.
yeah, it is very crazy. So we flew to Denver
Hmm.
because we've seen a lot of the Midwest and stuff. So we flew to Denver and we
Right.
drove to California. So I'm just going to tell you when you go, you need to drive US Route 50. Um,
US route. Okay, I'm writing this down.
yeah, US Route 50 goes from the East Coast to the West Coast. It goes
Okay.
from Maryland to California. And
Hmm.
so, but through Colorado, Utah, Nevada, California, it's probably one
Wow.
of the most beautiful stretches of road that you'll ever
Mm,
encounter, in my opinion. And so I
yeah.
would challenge you to do that. And then Linda and I headed up the coast, up the
Hmm.
California coast. We spent a few days there in Petaluma. We headed up the
Oh,
coast. We got to Portland. Then we turned and we went over and spent a few days in Glacier and then went
yeah.
down and spent a few days in the Tetons and then
Oh,
back to Denver and home. We traveled 4,300 miles in that 2 weeks
that
and
is incredible.
tried never to drive at night. So we are planning right now another epic, won't be 2 weeks because I don't have 2 weeks of vacation right now, but we're going to do the Southwest with some dear friends and
Oh,
go to Denver again, drive to Moab, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, that area, and then back to Denver. So
that is
I would encourage you
awesome.
to head west, young lady, because it's just a magnificent. It's breathtaking what's out there.
Yeah, that's what I hear. People are like, you really need to, do this. So definitely, I mean, that's on my bucket list too. Like just going west, honestly. But okay, so are you gonna be like camping on your road trip or what's the,
Okay, Joanna,
camping situation?
we're 61. Okay,
Okay, so no.
Linda's 60. We like to camp. We like to camp occasionally, but no, we'll be camping with Airbnb, and so
Okay.
uh,
Airbnb
yeah,
camping.
that's our
Okay.
plan. Although we've talked
That's
about
funny.
it, but yeah, probably not right now, but maybe someday.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just curious. I
Yeah.
was gonna recommend you some apps you could use for that, but you know what?
Well,
That's okay.
we will if we ever decide to do that because I know you had one really cool app when you were here, and that was you could check the crime, I think, around the
The
area. Uh,
the crime in place app. Yeah, you can like check crime levels
yeah.
around you. I use that all the time. I'm like, how dangerous is it here?
Yeah. I know you parked on the
So,
street here in Cincinnati out in front of Lauren's apartment. I'm like, what do you mean she parked on the street? She didn't stay in your apartment? And she's like, no, she stayed in her van. And I'm like, well, that's a true van lifer.
yeah, no, I love sleeping in the van. I think like and just even being on the road, I've encountered a lot of people that are kind of like, why would you not want to stay in a bed like in my house or at a hotel or whatever? And I think it's kind of just like, my bed is in there and you know how like when you go to like you go on a trip and you're staying in a new bed, you don't sleep as well typically. At least that's the case with me.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
And so it's like, you just kind of want to be in your own space, but I'm also an introvert. So having that time to just
Mm.
kind of, be in my own space, even though it's smaller, it might be hot. Sometimes it's really nice, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, I like to. This has been so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, of
But
course. Thank
I'd
you.
like to finish up my show by saying, tell people how to find you. You never know. Maybe somebody needs a freelancer, or
Yeah.
you can plug whatever you want here at the
Oh
end.
gosh.
I don't care. So, but
Yeah,
tell the folks listening. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Well, a lot of my work is on Instagram, which is just my name, Joanna Schaus. Um, and I also have a website, which is joannaschaus.com. So I do a lot of bookings through there, and those are kind of the two like best outlets to reach me and see more of my work and just connect with me. So yeah, I would love to connect with anyone
Yeah.
on those
So I hope
platforms.
people do, and they can find you. Do you tell people where you're at on your website or anything so they know?
I
Oh,
do.
look, she's here.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a whole page on my website called Van Life. And uh I put my travel dates and my travel schedule up there. I also like share my travel schedule on my Instagram as well. And I share that, periodically. And I have like a Patreon link on my website on that Van Life page, and I'm trying to, get more into Patreon. So yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
All of that is happening.
All right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so again, I thank you. Thank you for just taking a few minutes and sharing with people about van life and your
Mhm.
life and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate your time and just asking me these questions about van life, being on the road.
Yeah. Well, while you're traveling, you be safe and we'll talk again, okay?
Sounds good. Will do. Okay, you have a good day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dan the Road Trip Guy, and we look forward to having you back again next time. In the meantime, if you want to find me, you can find me on the internet at Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, Neal, Neal.com. Until we meet up again, keep having conversations and keep driving.